Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's recipe is this super moist and delicious Nigerian meat pie. Let me show you how I made it. These are the vegetables I'll be using. I'm going to clean and dice them up nicely. Here I have green gold and red bell pepper, diced Irish potatoes, some chopped onions, carrots and green onions. I have my pot heating up nicely. I'm going to add the minced beef. This is how I always do mine. I do not fry my onions first, but if you want, you can fry your onions. I'm going to continue to break this down until it becomes brown. It'll change from pink to brown. I will use my spoon to break it up nicely. What I usually do is once it browns, I transfer it to my food processor and blend it. But today I will not be doing that. Now it has changed color. I'm going to go in with the onions. Then I'll season with some thyme, ginger powder, some garlic powder, smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, some bouillon powder and curry powder. Don't you worry, I'll list all of the ingredients and their measurements in the caption as I always do. I'll give this all a good mix until it is well combined. Then I'll cover and let it simmer on low heat for about 10 minutes. Remember, I said very low heat. If you're not using heavy bottom pot like mine, you might want to add about 2 tablespoons of water just so it does not burn. Whatever you do, please keep an eye on it. I'll give this a mix and then I'll go in with the potatoes and carrots. I'll also add some water, just enough to cook the potatoes and carrots. Please do not add too much water at this point. We will still add more water. You might want to taste and adjust the seasoning also, but for me this is just perfect. I'll give it a mix and then I'll cover and allow it to cook for about 15 to 20 minutes on low heat. If you're doing medium heat, 10 minutes is just okay. Cooking it on low heat will help the flavors of the seasonings we've added to infuse properly. We want it to be super tasty. This is about 20 minutes later. The water has evaporated. Please keep an eye on it. That means always check on it. You don't want it to burn because this can easily burn, especially if you are not using a non-stick pot. Next, I'm going to add the bell peppers. This bell pepper is totally optional, but for me it adds volume and I also like the pop of color it gives. It's just so beautiful. Once everything is well combined, I'm going to add some water. Guys, don't forget to taste and adjust the seasoning to your liking. This is about half cup of water and then I'll add 2 tablespoons of flour. You can mix the flour into the water before adding it to the filling, but I always do this kind of because I'm used to it. So I'm going to give it all a good mix. The water is not too much. Once it cools down, it'll thicken. I'll give it a mix until everything is combined and then I'll cover and let it simmer for about 5 minutes. Don't forget to do this on low heat, very important. I'm going to say this until you get used to cooking your food on low heat. It just gives it better flavor. After 5 minutes, I'll give this delicious colorful meat pie filling a good mix so you can see. Like I mentioned earlier, once this cools down, it'll thicken. The water you see here will thicken and then when you bake your meat pie, it'll make the filling super moist. Can you see how beautiful this is? Oh my god, it's just so delicious. I'm going to take it off the heat and let it cool down completely. While it is cooling, I'll go ahead and make the dough. For the dough, I'm using all-purpose flour. Don't you worry, I'll list all of the ingredients and their measurements in the caption. I'm also adding some salt. This is a big batch of meat pie, okay? I'll mix the flour and the salt together properly until everything is well combined. This is very important. You don't want one side to be salty and the other side not so. Next, I'm going to add my softened unsalted butter. Remember, softened and unsalted. If you are using salted butter, then you don't need to add salt to the flour, so please keep that in mind. And then you want to use soft butter so that it can be easy to work with. Please bring your butter out a night before, or simply keep the butter in a warm place. If not, you'll probably suffer. If you don't want to go through the process of using your hand to work the butter into the flour, you can actually use your food processor for this with the dough blade. Once it becomes nice and crumbly, I'm going to add some milk. I'm using whole milk. Please do not use evaporated milk for this. I don't recommend it. I have not tried it myself. If you don't have milk, kindly use water. You want to use ice cold water. Work everything in gently until it is just combined. Please do not need this. If you need it, you'll work with gluten in the flour, and what you will end up with would be a bready texture. We don't want that. We want it to have the flaky, like biscuit texture. You get what I mean? So once it is nice and just combined, you are good to go. Please don't need this. This is what you want. You want it to be just like this, not stretchy, just combined. Next, I'm going to wrap the dough up using a cling film. This is just so it is easy for me to work with. I'm making a big batch, remember, so I'll divide it into 3 batches and then flatten it out like so. Cover and wrap it nicely using the cling film. This is going to be in the fridge for 30 minutes. You can do overnight if you don't have time, but please ensure you let it rest in the fridge for 30 minutes. Resting it in the fridge for 30 minutes will help the butter become cold and make it super flaky, just like we want it. 30 minutes later, I'm going to make my egg wash. There are 2 ways you can make your egg wash. I'm not going to be showing you the 2 ways, I will only tell you. You either whisk up your egg like so, or you add about 2 tablespoons of milk to the egg. But I'm using only egg because I ran out of milk. I'll just spray the board with a bit of flour and rub it also on the rolling pin. This is so the dough doesn't keep sticking to the rolling pin and the board. Can you see how hard this has become? Just like we want it. This texture will make it nice and flaky. So I'm going to divide this into about 8 equal parts. Not so equal. I'll just divide it into 8 so it's easy for me to work with. I'll gently roll it into a ball so that it can flatten out nicely. You don't want to flatten it out too thin. If you do, your dough will break. It'll leak out. So just do it as I'm doing it, like so, and you will get it. This is exactly what you want it to look like once you are done rolling. So you would need the lid of a pot or any round plate you have to cut it out perfectly into a round shape like this. I'm going to scoop in about 1.5 tablespoons of the filling. I'm not going to overdo it, guys. Then I'll use water to seal it round like so. I always use water. I don't know what other people use, but I use water. Cover it and then gently press it down like so. Then grab a fork and give it a nice seal. If you don't do this, your meat pie will open, so please do it. Next, I'm going to use a pizza cutter to cut out all the rough edges. I just like it looking perfect. This is not important, but it is important to me. so feel free to skip it if you don't want it. And this is what we have. I will just run over it quickly. So you know the other one, the excess we cut out from the first one, I usually roll it into the next one. If you don't, you will have a bunch of small pieces at the end and you would not like it. So roll it in like I did, set it aside, then put it in, just roll it in. You are not kneading, roll it in like this. Then seal your dough with water. Rub water around the edges. Scoop in just what you need for the filling, and then cover and press down gently like so. Grab a fork and seal it completely. You don't want to press your fork down through, just press it down gently. You don't want it to press down through. Now use a pizza cutter if you are like me to remove the rough edges, and you're done. Perfect, guys. And look at the array of gorgeousness we have. It's time to rub the egg wash on it. Very important, please do not skip this step or else your meat pie will not come out looking beautiful. This will make it shiny once it's done baking. Rub it on all corners as you can, but don't overdo it, okay? If you have excesses, you can always use the brush to reduce it. Now grab a fork, dip the fork in the egg wash and make holes into the dough like so. This will help the steam escape and your meat pie will not burst open. Go ahead and bake this for 30 minutes at 180. 30 minutes and 180, and this is what we have. Super delicious meat pie, moist with the flaky texture. Absolutely gorgeous, guys. We have come to the end of this video. Please don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you being here and I thank you for your support. Happy New Year. Bye.